The football world is actually quite small, and if you're not careful, you're going to burn a few bridges. Let's take a look at a few awkward reunions in the sport, where player and manager are forced to come together again after some particularly bad blood. Wayne Rooney and David Moyes. It's a shame that Wayne Rooney probably now views the man who gave him his professional debut in football as a walking joke, but I suppose that's what happens when you lead your team from 1st to 7th in your only season at the club. When Rooney left Everton for Manchester United as a pimply faced teenager back in 2004 in a massive £27 million deal, this of course being several years before that sort of money was being used to buy lads to warm the bench at Leicester, Moyes obviously wasn't pleased. He was even less so when he found out that Rooney went on to write an autobiography. Well, I say write, I mean I'm sure he probably picked out the pictures. And yes, this was an autobiography at the age of 21. The first 6 chapters were probably dedicated to his violent acne. The book described Moyes as overbearing and controlling, a move that would enrage the Scot and force him to sue the boy he once spoke so highly of. And so he received an apology and an out-of-court settlement of £150,000, which he no doubt just threw on the pile of compensation that he's received from getting sacked over the years. The duo reunited in 2013 when Moyes took the job at Old Trafford. To be fair, it looked like they put it behind them. I think Rooney was tired of fighting with his managers at this stage. Still did not stop them from blowing up their season though. El Hadji Diouf and Neil Warnock. When someone calls you a sewer rat, you probably think that's the end of any possible working relationship you might have with them in the future. No, not when it comes to Neil Warnock. In January 2011, El Hadji Diouf, remember him, the man who spits at children, was playing for Blackburn against QPR when he stood over Jamie Mackey, lying on the ground with a broken leg, and accused him of cheating. Warnock said, "For many years I've thought he was the gutter type. I was going to call him a sewer rat, but that might be insulting to sewer rats. I think he is the lowest of the low. I hope he goes abroad because I won't miss watching him. He is a nasty person." 18 months later, Warnock became the biggest hypocrite in the country by handing the apparent sewer rat a job, bringing him to Leeds United. I hope the kids in the front row bought umbrellas. Samuel Eto'o and Jose Mourinho. Never will I sign for a team trained by Mourinho. He wrecked things completely with his behaviour surrounding the 2 games between our sides. I insist Barca boss Frank Rijkaard is the better coach. Samuel Eto'o, March 2005. See, this is why footballers shouldn't make predictions about their career, especially the ones who are so clearly ruled by their own bank account that they probably play for the dog and duck if they offer them a decent wage. I mean, you can't tell me Samuel Eto'o was currently stuck out of Konya Sport for the love of the game now, come on. Anyway, after that bold prediction following Chelsea's Champions League win over Barcelona all those years ago, Eto'o ended up signing for Mourinho's Inter Milan 4 years later, won the treble, fell in love with the boss, and signed for him again at Chelsea in 2013. Michael Owen and Kevin Keegan. It seems crazy that Newcastle have not broken the transfer record in nearly 13 years. Also a bit depressing. But then when you remember who's controlling the strings, maybe not. Michael Owen was the big money purchase back then, and by God was it a waste of time. The man was barely off the treatment table, the club was going through managers like damp tissues, and by the end of his fat contract, the club were championship material. During that time, Kevin Keegan have returned to St James's Park. Now, Owen had of course played under him with England, but according to his autobiography, he had hated every minute of it. He wrote, "I felt I was being singled out, there was so much pressure on him he needed a scapegoat. Looking back at the Keegan era with England, one main feature stands out for me. It made me question my footballing ability for the first time in my life. Certainly it was a dark phase in my career." Jays, I say he was at his wit's end when he was stuck on the bench at Stoke then. So when Keegan turned up at Newcastle in January 2008, you'd be forgiven for thinking Owen wanted to escape the club as quickly as possible. Owen actually went on to enjoy the best football of his Tyneside career under Keegan, netted a double against Sunderland, and said in June 2013, "It was the most enjoyable time of my career there. Everybody loved playing for him. It was an absolute privilege to play under him. I enjoyed my football then more than at any other point for Newcastle." And then I assume, of course, he went back to slating the club who lined his pockets until the cows came home. Cesc Fàbregas and Jose Mourinho. See, this is what happens when you're Jose Mourinho. You end up pissing off enough players, and then you end up working with them later on down the line. With Fàbregas at Barcelona, Mourinho had just returned to Chelsea from Madrid and claimed it was one of the poorest Catalan sides he'd ever seen. Fàbregas didn't stop and think, I might actually be signing for Chelsea this summer. Replied with this: "If Mourinho's words had to motivate me, we do not have to play football. Many people want us to fall down, and it's for that reason they talk too much. They have to shut their mouth some days." Right, so a few months later, Fàbregas was being unveiled at Stamford Bridge on a £27 million deal, with the Spaniard accepting that he probably now has to avoid North London for the rest of his days, unless he wants a few empty beer cans chucked at his head. David Beckham and Capello. When David Beckham decided that he was leaving Real Madrid for the MLS at the age of 31, most people had thought golden balls had gone insane, especially considering LA Galaxy's most well-known player at that point was Abel Xavier. Remember, he was the lad with the ridiculous haircuts who couldn't defend to save his life. Real Madrid boss Capello was not pleased either. After hearing of Beckham's decision to quit the club at the end of the season, he quickly stated that the England midfielder would not represent the Bernabeu Giants ever again. That didn't last long. It took a month for Capello to backtrack. Beckham returned to the team and helped the club to their first La Liga title in 4 years. If Beckham thought he'd escaped Capello, oh no, he was his national team manager the following year. And in 2010, Capello said this: "I say thank you very much for helping me at the World Cup, but probably he is a little bit old. He will play one friendly to say bye-bye." Beckham probably wakes up in the dead of night, terrified that Capello's at the end of his bed, with a list of more things that he'll never accomplish in life. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.